Howdy there, partner. Today, we're going to be talking about Boothill and Robin in Honkai Star Rail. We're going to be talking about everything we know about them, everything we don't know about them, and what you should be doing to get ready if you want either Boothill or Robin in the upcoming 2.2 update for Honkai Star Rail, which is after we get aventurine. We're still on acheron, but they're coming up. They're not far away, so you got to get ready. So we're going to start with Boothill. This is what Honkai Star Rail put out, a character introduction for Mr. Boothill. He is a space cowboy, kind of looking like a robot thing with his arms, you know, and chest. I mean, that could be like, you could just say that's arm or something. His arms, though, man, looks like he's got robot arms going on there. Nonetheless, Boothill is a 5-star. He is a physical damage dealer. He is a hunt type. You can see that there's the physical mark there, and then there is the hunt mark there. So that is what we have officially known about Boothill. Oh, we also know what he sounds like. I guess I will say this is spoilers if you haven't played the story yet so far in the 2.1 update. I assume if you're here watching this about Boothill, you've probably already played or you don't really care too much, but the Boothill speaks in the 2.1 story. So, you know, if you haven't seen it and you want to wait and see it for yourself in gameplay, go do that. But if not, the reminder, here's what Boothill sounds like.
Huh? Did I make a mistake? Who the heck are you? Huh? 我打错了，宝了个贝的，你又是谁？
あ？相手を間違えたか？ホーリーベイビー、あんたは誰だ？
이건 뭐야? 내가 잘못 걸었나? 베이비, 넌 또 누구냐?
Now, I will say this is also him talking over the phone, which is why it also, I assume that's also part of why he sounds like that. I'm sure he won't sound as, like, robotic-ish in actual person. This is from over the phone when he's talking to Black Swan. But yeah, so that's what Boothill sounds like in English, Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. I really like how Boothill sounds. I think he has a fantastic voice. Let's talk about what Boothill's kit may look like. Of course, these are all guesses that came to me in my dreams and me thinking about what Boothill may do just based on previous Honkai Star Rail characters. He'll have a basic attack, as everyone does in Honkai Star Rail. His physical attack will most likely deal an amount of physical damage based on his total amount of attack. And what it may look like, I imagine, now, like, so he's the cowboy, he's got the guns, a gunslinger, that he won't use shooting every single attack. So maybe for his basic attack is most simple, he'll do like an axe kick with his boot. You know, cowboy boots have the spur on them. So maybe, you know, he'll do like some damage with that or something. Cool little animation with that for just his basic attack, not using his good old trusty revolver for the basic. He could also have an enhanced basic attack, which is a slightly better version of his basic attack. Do a little more physical damage and perhaps do some extra hits based on like a stackable I don't want to say buff because it's not like he's getting more damage or anything, and that's kind of what people tend to think when you say buff, but like a stackable buff that allows for him to do more hits depending on how many stacks he has. And maybe he'll get that from his talent or something, but we'll talk about that. His skill could be like the good old standoff, how they always have in the westerns between the two cowboys, a standoff, who's gonna fire first. They have a standoff between them, and maybe it'll be a taunt. He'll activate a taunt on the enemy that he stands off with, you know, whichever one you pick, and then press the skill on. And then both Boothill and the enemy maybe will take increased damage by some percentage during the standoff. So it's a risky move, you know. It's a dual-edged sword. You can do more to them, but they can do more to you if you don't play it right. So it's important you break them and kill them and get rid of them. That's what Boothill's all about. I get the feeling Boothill's about breaking people. The hunt characters all seem to have like kind of their own thing going for them, and that's what I think Boothill's gonna be about. And then his ultimate, the big moment. I imagine he'll be shooting off his revolvers. There'll be a big shot at the end with a huge explosion. They love their huge explosions in Star Rail, which they look sick, so I'm a big fan. He'll probably, in terms of like what the actual will be going on during the animation, he'll have probably a percent chance to apply physical weakness to people, as he's all about, you know, breaking them, and you can't do that if they don't have a physical weakness, as he's a physical character. And so I think that'll be there, and then he'll deal his physical damage to them, a higher percentage than obviously his, you know, basic and enhanced basic attacks that I think would have. I mean, everyone's ultimate does more damage. That's just the point of the ultimate when you're DPS. And then probably might delay their actions depending on like his break effect. I think he's going to be a big break effect guy. And his talent, I mentioned this a little bit before, but I was thinking for his talent, he can, whenever he defeats or weakness breaks an enemy that's his standoff target, you know, the skill target. There's only a thing to call it is standoff. I don't know what else you would call that in the Westerns. But when you do that to the person who's been targeted by him in that, when you break or defeat them, he'll gain a stack of like a buff, which I mentioned for like a enhanced version of his normal attack. You do some extra damage, you deal some extra hits in there depending on how many stacks you get of that additional. I assume there will be a limit. Probably won't be too crazy because doing extra hits is pretty big time. But I think that'll help. It also help with dealing weakness breaking the enemy, which Boothill, I mean, you can even see, like, look at the shards around him in the picture. That looks like a weakness break to me. That's just what I'm thinking. And then for technique, I think Boothill could perhaps inflict physical weakness on whoever he targets with his skill first. You know, the standoff. Whoever Boothill targets with that first, I think that he could apply a physical weakness to him to try and get him going, get the breaks going. Of course, you're going to want to use him against people already weak to physical, but if they happen to not be, Boothill has a way to actually do something and not just be kind of useless. Let's talk about the bonus traces Boothill may have. I'm thinking for his bonus trace 1, Boothill could have the ability to increase his crit rate and crit damage maybe by his break effect. Again, I'm all in on him being a break effect guy. I just have it, I feel it in my bones. Boothill's a break effect guy. So, you know, he can have an increase in his crit rate and crit damage, and it'll be like a stackable thing, but you can only stack it a certain amount of times, maybe like 3 times or something, depending on what percentages we got going on for Mr. Boothill. Then for his second bonus trace, Boothill could decrease the damage that he will receive from the enemy team that is not in his like kind of standoff mode. You pick one person to stand off against, as all the Westerns do. You have your opponent, and so the other people, the other enemies who aren't in the standoff, because, you know, I'm imagining Boothill will take more damage in a standoff state, just like the enemy who's also in the standoff will take more damage. But the other people, they don't interfere. Boothill will take less damage by a certain percentage. And then for the bonus trace, number 3, bonus trace. Boothill will, I'm feeling that when he gets his stackable, you know, kind of buff thing, that he will regenerate energy the first time, and that maybe this will also work when you exceed like the maximum amount of stacks, because obviously there will be a maximum. They won't make this unlimited where Boothill's shooting off 10 million bullets if you can get it there. So, you know, I think Boothill will be able to get some energy back, get those ults kind of rolling, and Boothill can really get going, cooking like a freight train that is trying to escape being robbed by those cowboys. I don't know, I'm on the Western theme right now. But now let's move on to Eidolons. What will Boothill have for his Eidolons? Of course, E3 and E5 will be the standards. You know, they increase the, you know, talent, alts, those levels that they do for every character. The standard E3 and E5s. But E1, I'm feeling for that, Boothill will just he'll just start the battle with one of those stacks instead of having to earn it through, like, you know, the other methods I've mentioned thus far. And that he'll be able to ignore a portion of the enemy's defense. I think that's a good E1. That's a solid E1 to have. E2, maybe he'll regen some skill points, or like a skill point, I guess. Multiple is a little unfair. He'll regen a skill point, and that he'll increase his break effect when obtaining the stackable ability he may have. E3, he'll increase the ult and basic attack as all do. E4, maybe he'll increase the damage dealt, and then also reduce the damage that he receives from the standby target. So, or the standoff, not standby. His opponent in the standoff. He'll increase his damage and decrease that he can take, so that would be kind of an important Eidolon to get. But E4, you're in kind of whale territory, or you have been saving specifically for Mr. Boothill for some time. E5 will increase skill and talent levels, as it always does. And E6, the big one, the final, the last call, he'll deal additional break damage to his standoff target, and then maybe even it'll spread out to the enemies on the left and right. Maybe that will also happen as well. That's what I'm feeling for Mr. Boothill. And then Mr. Boothill's light cone. What are we feeling for the light cone? Well, I was feeling that it'll increase break effect. Again, all in on Boothill being a break effect guy, and that maybe it will ignore some of, you know, your target, whoever you're attacking, their defense, a percentage based when you inflict break damage upon them. You'll ignore some of that defense so you can do a little extra damage in there when Mr. Boothill's doing what he does best, and weakness breaking the enemy. And then one final thing to make it a true 5-star light cone. He will have, whenever he hits an opponent, he can do an extra % or maybe 2 of more damage on him, and this will be stacked up a certain amount of times, maybe 5, maybe 6 times. This could be stacked. You don't want to get too crazy of unlimited stacks. Mr. Boothill's doing 10 million % more damage to people. So yeah, I think that's what Mr. Boothill's light cone, in my opinion, in my personal made up opinion, is gonna look like. As for what you should be farming for Boothill in terms of like ascension and trace materials, I'm gonna hop into Honkai Star Rail to show you what I think Mr. Boothill may use as his stuff. We may still get stuff that's still to come out. We can't even farm it yet for him, but I'll talk about that. I'll also show off Robin's, because they're both physical characters, so they are going to share a lot of stuff. So I may as well show off both of them. But that's Boothill essentially. We'll talk about their ascension and trace materials. I'm losing my mind here. And then we'll jump into Robin and all of her kit. Alrighty, for trace and ascension materials for Boothill and for Robin, because we're also here, so why not talk about them both real quick, and then we'll hop into Robin's kit. But I do look a little different, don't worry about that. I believe it'll be these two for Boothill and for Robin. These are the new trace materials we have in the game. I believe these Dream Valve machine stuff will be for Robin, and that, if I had to guess, that these fragments, shards, tatters will be for Boothill. A great way to get these, if you just don't know, assignments. Make sure you're sending out. You can get both of them. You can get the Dream stuff, and you can get the tatters from it. So make sure you're sending them out on that. There is, of course, other ways you can go and get these, just like through farming. You can get if you do any of the penacony calyx, the golden calyx penacony stuff, you can earn them through there, whatnot. So it's pretty easy to get these. Honestly, you don't even really need to waste your energy. Just do these every single day, and you will definitely have a whole lot by the time Boothill and Robin come out. So you'll be able to definitely upgrade them there for trace materials. In terms of ascension materials, these where you get from fighting the stagnant shadows, I think we're probably going to end up getting a new one for Robin and Boothill. So unfortunately, it doesn't seem you can kind of farm that yet. You're gonna have to wait for the 2.2 update when we get a new stagnant shadow that will let you get whichever one of these are for them. That's just my guess, a big guess that we're probably gonna need some new ones for Boothill and Robin. In terms of the other trace material you'll need, the ones that you can farm doing the Crimson Calyx, we have actually a new one that we got in Penacony for Harmony, which Robin is a Harmony, so I would definitely assume that this is what Robin is going to use. Also, she's all about singing. I get the first one's also like a music box. This one is even more musical, I feel, with music notes and dancing and harmony and in Penacony and everything Robin related. You're going to use these for Robin, so you can go ahead and farm these now if you want. As for Mr. Boothill, he's a hunt character, and we haven't gotten a new one for the hunt yet. So that makes me believe that we'll probably get a new one that you'll have to farm for him. He won't be using, sadly, these arrows. I just think that they're too old for him to use. That's just how they normally do things. Just like how we got new for Nihility, for Acheron, and I believe these will probably be for Robin. We will probably end up getting a new one for Boothill. And I mean, these are arrows, and there's kind of like a theme between them. Like, these are musical. I guess these aren't quite the same, but like, it's like cosmic kind of stuff going on. And these are like sharp items, kind of. It's a stretch, I know. But maybe Boothill's about a cowboy, so maybe they'll make bullets. But we'll see on that. Then for the Echo of War, I think we'll get a new one. I know that's not what you want to hear, because normally when they drop a new one, it's difficult. People struggle with it. And I remember people struggling with Divine Seed, and I definitely remember people struggling with the Beetle. So I'm sure we'll struggle with the new one. But sadly, I think they're going to drop a new Echo of War also for 2.2 to get the upgrade materials for them. So that's how we're going to have to go about that as well. But that is the materials you can farm, and the two materials that I think we'll have to wait to farm for Boothill and Robin. But with that, let's get into Robin's whole kit, baby! But now let's shift our focus to Robin, the songstress, the ultimate performer. She, of course, is also a physical type character, as shown in her Honkai Star Rail official character, like, reveal promotion thing. And then she is a Harmony, so she's meant to buff the team, help the DPS do what the DPS does best, and that's destroy. For basic attack, it'll be basic, just normal attack, deal a certain percentage of her attack. Nothing crazy. They never are. So that's what Robin will have. Maybe, and also I guess maybe during the attack either she'll sing or I assume maybe she'll even throw like musical notes at the enemy, something like that. I think it's all going to be about music, singing, all revolving around that. I mean, that is who she is. Her skill, this is where things get interesting since she's a harmony. Her skill, I could see it increasing the damage dealt by allies by a certain percent, lasting. I think 3 turns is a good amount, just like Ting Yun's last 3 turns. So I could see 3 turns being a good amount. And then of course, the amount of turns decreases when it's her turn, it goes down by 1, and then after 3 or whatever the number they decide, then it's done. Now let's get to her ult. And I think her ult's going to be a crazy one. I think Robin's going to have one of them ults. You're going to feel that thing. So I think she's going to enter like a performative state where she's going to be singing. And it's going to be like some cool, you know, audio, music, sound, singing going on. I don't know why I went around all that way to get back to singing. It's going to be some cool singing going on. And she'll increase all allies' attack. That's a common great thing for a harmony to have, probably by a certain percent, and then maybe also by some of her own attack. Do some of that in there. Maybe she'll have everyone jump in and attack right away. Then after your teammates attack, people that aren't Robin on your team, your allies to Robin attack, then she will do like a follow-up attack with a certain amount of her damage for like 1 attack. So like you let's just say we got a Boothill and Robin out there. Use the ult. Boothill attacks, and Robin does like a little follow-up attack afterwards. Nothing crazy. She is just a harmony, but it's an extra attack and extra damage in there, so that's helpful. Especially if you're on Boothill too, I guess that's extra physical to help with the weakness breaking. And then while she's in this kind of state, it'll go on for a certain amount of time, and she will not be able to get hit by crowd control debuffs that would like knock her out of the state, make her, you know, unable to continue performing. And yeah, I think that's good. Maybe for her follow-up attack, it's got like a fixed crit rate and damage or something, so we don't get any crazy fluctuations. It's just you kind of know what you're gonna get. But yeah, I think that's what her ult's gonna look like. And then when the time runs out, then it's done, and you gotta charge back up another ult, pop another skill, all that good stuff. But you also can't use her during the ult. Like you can't do a normal attack or use her skill during the ult. It's just the ult stage. She does her follow-up attacks, and then when she's done, she returns to being like a normal character. For talent, we have a lot of attack buffs, so I could see buffing the allies crit damage, and then maybe she regenerates some energy when your teammates attack. People that aren't Robin attack, she regenerates some energy because you want to get her ult going. Her technique, she is a singer. People love songs. People can kind of enter like a trance-like state following music, so maybe perhaps she'll like lure the enemies in with her song, and they won't attack her. It'll be peaceful. And then when you start a battle, she'll regenerate energy during that. I think that would be a good one, because again, you just want to get her out going so she can buff the team and help everyone do what they do best and do more damage. For Miss Robin's traces though, I was feeling for trace 1, we can just advance her action forward by a certain percent. Nothing crazy, but help her get out there, get first, so she can lay on her buffs, help the team be strong, big, tough guys, and do the damage. Then for trace 2, in her kind of performative state, when she's putting on her performance during the ultimate, we'll call it the ultimate state, keep it simple, I guess. During her ultimate state, she will increase allies crit damage for follow-up attacks. I think that could be good. You can run her, you know, do some follow-up kind of stuff going on. That could be cool. And then for trace 3, I was feeling she can maybe sustain herself a little bit. That can be a problem with harmony characters. They die, they're killed. So maybe if she's able to have some way to keep herself going, regardless of, you know, whatever else you got going on the team for sustains, then when her health drops below 50%, I feel like that's a common benchmark number. 50% seems like a good number. Then she can restore her own HP equal to a certain amount of her max HP whenever her talent maybe is triggering. Talent? Yeah, we'll go with talent. Whenever her talent is triggered. I feel like that could be good for Robin's 3rd trace. Then for Robin's Eidolons. Of course, E3, E5. And then for Robin's Eidolons. E3, E5, again, going to be the same as they always do, but we'll go in order here again. E1, when Robin is in her ultimate state, we could have it so all the allies who do any sort of attack, you do any sort of attack, whether it be an ultimate, a basic, or skill, you're just doing some sort of attack, you'll gain a special stack, you know, to Robin, and then this special stack can increase your speed. We'll limit that stack probably because speed is pretty important. Speed's a pretty great ability to have in this game. So maybe we'll limit that to like 2, depending on what percentage it is. I guess the percentage to the stack amount is important. So whatever that ends up being. And then also maybe Robin, when she does her like follow-up attacks, in her ultimate, maybe they'll do some extra damage too. Sounds like a good E1 to me. E2. Maybe we'll have that increase her talent crit damage by 1%, and then she'll also regain some energy. Some energy regen will happen, so that could be good. I think that's a good E2. E3, again, the usual skill and ultimate level up as it always is. E4, of course, I mentioned during her ultimate the ability to avoid crowd control. Well, let's have it so when she uses her ult, it removes crowd control from the whole team. And then we'll also increase effect resistance of that said team, your allies, your buddies, your homies, so that you can all avoid being locked, crowd controlled, unable to perform actions while she's in her ultimate. It just really helps the team get the most out of her ultimate instead of having everyone locked by crowd control and unable to do it. E5, we increase the basic attack and the talent level, as we always do. And then E6, this is it. You've wailed. You've maxed her out. Well, in her ultimate state, we'll have the allies increase their resistance penetration for all types by a certain %, and then we'll probably have her do increased crit damage. We'll increase her crit damage on her first 6 follow-up attacks during her ultimate phase, and then when that resets. So if you go like 7 attacks during one ultimate phase, the 7th one won't have that extra damage, but if you end your ultimate and then do another one, you get 6 again. I think that's a fantastic E6. That sounds like a great Eidolon for Robin to have. Her signature light cone. I was thinking she'd gain a special stack of a buff that she gets every time. You get 1 stack every time a teammate does an attack, and then each stack could increase her energy regen rate. Yeah, energy regen rate, since you want her to get the ult. We have a lot of energy regen rate going on here. We, of course, limit that to a certain amount of stacks, depending on how much it increases your energy regen rate, so whatever number they decide on there. But I think that's good for her, get more energy. And then when you use her ultimate, it wipes away those stacks because you've used your energy. It's maxed. You just used it. And then you get a new separate buff. And this buff will increase your attack and then everyone else's damage by certain percentages for like a turn, And this is, feeling like, this is the base level of her light. This, of course, could change depending on how many times you pull her light cone, how whaley you really are. So yeah, I think that is what we could see for Robin, her abilities, light cone, eidolons, traces, all that good stuff. I mentioned what you need for ascension materials during the end of the Boothill segment, so that's what I'm feeling for Miss Robin. I didn't mention her voice because you've all played penacony, at least that far, I would assume. So you've all heard Robin talk. She's not as elusive as Boothill. Robin has been in the story, major player. Not like Boothill, who we literally barely know anything about in the story. So yeah, that's going to do it for me, though. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Whew. Honkai Star Rail, man, these characters are just fun.